Hi guys, James from Goddard Radio Moscow Beer Reviews again for you here. For this one we are going to continue on with the kind of Victorian series of beer reviews that I've been doing for you, and this review today is going to be my first Australian porter. So for this one we are going to go to the Kooinda Boutique Brewery, and have a taste of their milk porter beer. Now this one is from Heidelberg West, which if I'm not mistaken is still one of the suburbs of the city of Melbourne, and this is meant to be a very nice beer. This one's really highly rated on Rate Beer and Beer Advocate, and this brewery is actually really quite interesting and very highly rated on these websites too, so go and check them out. As always, the brewery website is in the video description for you below, along with a link to my other reviews that I will do from these guys in the future. I'll take you through a few facts about the brewery now and just fast forward to the tasting if you do just want to see me do that. So anyway, the Kooinda Brewery, as I mentioned to you, are based in Heidelberg West, but this brewery started out as the first residentially licensed brewery in Australia, and they made their first beers in a 400 litre handmade brew house, and they used a family swimming pool as a heat exchange to cool the beer as it transferred to the fermenter. So it was quite interesting, this brewery, because a lot of their beers were made in homemade equipment. So late 2010 saw the company decide to make their own brewery near La Trobe University in Heidelberg West in Melbourne, and this greatly increased their capacity and meant the two brewery directors, Jamie Cox and Michael Opie, could become full-time employees of the brewery. And in 2013 the brewery tripled their production capacity, and they put many hours into developing several new recipes as well, and their continued success has resulted in a further plan of expansion in 2015. So there's a lot of good things to be coming from this brewery in the very near future. As I say, check out the brewery website and the Facebook page and everything like that. Just to list a few of the other beers that you can get from this brewery: in the regular range you have the American Pale Ale, the Valhalla Golden Ale, English Red Ale, and also the Black India Pale Ale. In the seasonal range you have the Belgian Wit Beer, and this guy, the Milk Porter. So, just to tell you a little bit about this beer itself, it's a 4.6% porter beer, as you would guess from the name Milk Porter. It apparently uses Northern Brewer hops with an addition of lactose, and it has a malt base of dark, roasted and chocolate malt, so it should be quite an interesting one. The porter beer, I should say, isn't my favourite style of beer. It's one that I enjoy every now and then, and I can always appreciate a good porter, but it's not one that I drink too regularly. I feel like I'm a big double IPA and kind of Rauch beer and Munich Helles style guy. That's kind of the sort of things that I like, but I do appreciate a nice porter and stout. So as you can see, it's quite a nice bit of artwork that's on this one. These bottles, from what I've seen, they're all the same artwork, but it's just a different colour on the label for each different type of beer. So we've got a nice kind of purple colour on this one. It says on the side of it, this handcrafted and unfiltered ale is a traditional porter which is black in colour and boasts a thick rocky brown head which laces the glass. The ale is brewed with a combination of dark roasted and chocolate malts and is hopped with the Northern Brewer hop of the United Kingdom. This beer has flavours of chocolate and roasted coffee and a delicate milk sweetness. The subtle bitterness cuts through the rich sweet malt flavours magnificently. And yeah, it's just got the address of this beer on the other side as well, and you've got Facebook and Twitter and all of this noted on the side here too. Plain bottle cap on this one, so without further ado, let's get this guy open and get on with the tasting here. It's 4.7% on the Richter scale, so we'll get it out now. Oh, spilt a little bit of it there. Wasn't a very clean opening, that one. So we'll just pour it out here just now. As you can see, it's pouring just the nice kind of dark, real mahogany colour, or kind of rosewoody colour as I like to describe it, that you expect of a porter beer. Good bit of sediment actually just staying in the bottle there. Maybe I'll try and fish that out a bit later on, but for now, as you can see, I've spilt a few drops of it over the counter, but that's not to worry about just now. You can see it's got a nice finger of a kind of frothy tan head on this one. If I put my fingers behind it, you can't see through this at all. If I hold it up to the light, it's still the same. It's a murky kind of rosewood colour, this one. A very nice looking beer actually. A good bit of carbonation just kind of sticking towards the side of the glass. You can see a lot of little bubbles just going up towards the bottom of the head, which is really nice. So in terms of the aroma, you can pick up what you would expect of the porter, definitely. It's got a lot of nice kind of sort of chocolatey malts in there, a nice bit of roasty character to it as well. But it's got a nice kind of coffee sweetness to it, which is quite interesting. Usually you get the kind of chocolate bringing out the kind of sweet character in these beers, but this one, it's the coffee that smells sweet. It's a kind of sweet roasty character that's coming out. And you can pick up just a little bit of nutty flavour coming out as well. And it's definitely got a kind of underline of that lactose and milky aroma as well, which is really cool. But it's got a good chocolate element as well. You can just pick that up mixing in with the milk. It's definitely a milk chocolate rather than a dark chocolate that's coming off on this one. So a nice, as I say, a nice dark roasted coffee element in there, but it's quite sweet as well. But you can definitely pick up that kind of lactose and milk flavour that you get from it. It's really interesting, this one. Definitely a really nice aroma on this. So definitely if you get this beer, just take a little bit of time and actually smell the aroma on this one. It's quite interesting, definitely. But let's give it a taste anyway and see how we get on. So here we go. Yeah, it's a big malty beer, as you would expect always from a porter. This is on first impression, this is a very smooth one actually. So you've got a really, you can pick up that kind of milk in the background. The milk part of the flavour on this one actually makes it feel quite wet and just quite a nice drinkable porter actually. A lot of porters I've found can be too forward on the kind of roasted coffee element of it, but this one's just nice and smooth actually, which is good. But yeah, there's a good bit of the dark chocolate flavour coming out. The roasted element is just, the roasted kind of coffee element is just sitting towards the back of the tongue. There is a little bit of a kind of bitter underlying to this one, but it does feel very smooth, and around the front of the tongue it's where you're just starting to get those milky flavours coming out. Yeah, you'll feel it as you drink this one. There's a kind of almost slightly oily feel comes to the front of the mouth on this one. It just kind of rolls to the front of the tongue, and you've got this really nice kind of lactosey, milky flavour coming out. Very nice, but there's a nice underlying bit of breadiness to it. Kind of woody, kind of nutty flavours coming out. A little kind of bit of vanilla, if you like. It's a really interesting one, this. The kind of nutty flavours just sit around the edge of the tongue, and the coffee kind of bitter flavours that you expect of this style just mix in with it, but there's a lot of bitter character just sitting at the back on the middle of the palate. It's a very interesting blend of this one. It's quite complex, and it definitely does have that bitter coffee edge to it that separates the porter from the stout. Because I found some beers say they're a porter, but then they've got the sweetness which really makes them more like a stout in my opinion, but this one definitely has that kind of bitter coffee edge that you would expect from it. There's maybe even a teeny little bit of smoke in this one, but very small. It's actually got a little bit of a sweetness to it, and that's the chocolate coming out and mixing with the coffee. You get just a little bit of sweetness sitting in the middle of the tongue on this one, and it's actually even a teeny little bit sharp, which is quite interesting. So there's a lot of interesting flavours in this beer, which make it's a really interesting and quite unique porter actually. But yeah, I would stick with that kind of initial assessment. You get the nice milky flavours moving towards the front of the tongue, some nice nutty and woody elements coming out too, maybe just a little bit of chocolate sitting nearer the front, but it's a nice kind of dark, bitter roasted coffee that sits in the main part of the palate there. There's a little element of kind of smokiness too, which is quite interesting as well, but the milk is definitely present in this one. It's a bit more present in the aroma, I would say. You can smell that milkiness to it, and that kind of makes the coffee come out a little bit sweet, and that's the main difference between the aroma and the taste. The coffee smells very sweet in the aroma, but it's more bitter when you actually get to the tongue, which is really cool. But in terms of the mouthfeel, it's definitely mid-bodied. There's a little bit of carbonation in there that just gives you a little bit of a prickle on the front of the palate, and when you move towards the back, it helps bring out the bitterness of the coffee a little bit too, which is quite interesting. It's not as bitter as some porters that I've come across as well, but there's a good bit of dryness in this one, especially on the middle of the tongue as you move into the aftertaste. It does have just that little bit of dryness and bitter flavour in there too, which is very nice. It's a very well balanced one, and what I would say is that overall it's a very nice porter. It's quite a complex one, so you would want to just spend a little bit of time and just take in all the flavours that this beer has to offer. but it's quite an easy drinking porter as well. So if you like something that's a little bit more sessionable from the porters, then this is one for you to go for. As I said, a porter for me is a beer that I would drink more occasionally, and maybe when I was eating chocolate or something like that. It's not one that I would kind of go and session a little bit. If I went into like Brewdog or something like that at home just for one beer, that's maybe when I would drink a porter rather than sessioning this beer. But yeah, so this is a really, really nice beer. It's another good discovery of a brewery from Australia. I hope you've enjoyed this beer review, and please, as I always say I've been saying quite a lot in my recent videos, please let me know in the comments section your own thoughts on Australian beer that I should check out. I'm really enjoying doing this series of Victorian beers for you just now, so let me know all your favourite Australian beers and breweries and stuff like that. So I hope you're enjoying this series, and please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff, and I will catch you soon with another Victorian beer review. Cheers!